This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
McElroy Cubelic in the morning on Jocks 94.5. Glad to have you with us here as we continue to roll along. Hour number 3 here in Cashers, North Carolina. Hour number 3 here in Birmingham, Alabama. 10 o'clock here locally where I am and 9 o'clock there where you are. I hope everyone's Friday's off to a terrific start. I don't know about y'all this weekend. This week's been weird for me. It's felt like a holiday week, but not really. Kind of like getting back to season time, kind of getting back to work a little bit, like catching up. It's been strange, but it's been really enjoyable. Like I'm kind of ready for the season. Like I feel like I've finally flipped the switch, finally ready to start getting it going, and very much looking forward to what's coming up here in about 6 days when we head to Tampa for SEC Media Days. 6 days, I mean 6 shows. So I speak in shows, sorry. Weekends don't even count anymore. They don't even count. But I'll tell you what does count is the quality that you're going to receive from Polar Bear Services. Wes and the guys do an amazing job. I love these guys. Wes has become a friend. Love calling them anytime. Well, I don't love calling them because oftentimes when I call them, it's because something's gone wrong at the house. The good news is I know something's going to get fixed quickly because Polar Bear Services can help you in a lot of different ways. They can help you with your plumbing. They can help with your electrical. They can do whole home generator install. They can obviously help with your HVAC system. And we know we've had some scorchers the last couple of weeks. It's been hot. My HVAC system, I'm sure yours has too. It has been put to the test, but my system is running smoothly thanks to my friends at Polar Bear Services. So remember, if you got a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR. All right, we welcome in. He's Wilson Alexander. Does a great job for On3 Sports. Been reading his stuff for a long time. Always very grateful. He's a Georgia grad, but now is working in Louisiana. Spent a lot of time covering the LSU Tigers. So Georgia covering LSU, Wilson. Let's start with that. Challenging or easy?
It was never a challenge for me. I mean, partially to, I try to take objectivity very seriously. And so even if I was a Georgia grad who was covering Florida, I would not let that get in the way. But with LSU, I never even had to try to do that because growing up as a kid watching, Georgia football and everything, like they hardly ever played LSU. So right. LSU was just like that weird thing over in the distance. It was like, what is that? And so, no, never an issue. But I swear it would not be within the other school either.
No doubt about it. Awesome stuff. It's really good, and I think it's awesome. And one of your things you referenced, you talked about Florida and covering Florida, and you did a really neat piece. I thought it was terrific about Billy Napier. And I for those that haven't read it, go check it out. On3.com. They have a lot of good stuff, and Wilson does a great job for them. But you had a conversation with Billy Napier about what happened at Florida. And for those that haven't read the piece, we'll post it here at some point from our Twitter handle. From what you learned about his process, help us understand what went into writing the piece and what your takeaways were from writing it.
Well, what went into writing it was just, this sort of a desire to talk to somebody who, in Billy Napier, who had failed, frankly. Like, what do you learn from that? Where do you see yourself going wrong, and how do you get better as a coach? Because Billy's only in his 40s, and if he wants to keep coaching as he is now at James Madison, then he has to continue to, there's still a road ahead of him as a head coach. And now he's going to a team that was tops in the Sun Belt, has sent its past 2 coaches to Power 4 jobs, and just was in the college football playoff. And so I think it was really interesting listening to him because he was willing to be reflective. Sometimes people aren't, right? But here in what he knew would be a public setting, in a way, he was willing to be. And 2 things that really jumped out was that he offered up himself. I said, how did you come to the decision not to call plays at James Madison? And what he said was that he thought he was probably a little stubborn in not giving that up at Florida, holding on to it the way that he did, even though that Florida offense was not getting the job done. One of the things that he talked about was saying, quote, once my back was against the wall, I wasn't confident or comfortable enough to hand that over to somebody else, end quote. And then he also mentioned sort of coming to the conclusion that he should have delegated more to people on his staff. But basically, he wasn't able to, handle play calling and everything else that came with being a head coach in the NIL era all at once with the level of detail that he needed to have, even though Florida had a very large support staff. That was sort of the conclusion that at least that he has come to over the past few months, so that he didn't do a good enough job of that. So he's trying to make some changes now and evolve as the head coach of James Madison.
Well, it's fascinating too, and I think in failure, it's easy to reflect back and say what you do differently, understandably, right? But Billy Napier, and we talk about this a lot with Steve Sarkisian and others that still call the plays. But with all the workload that now comes with NIL, it's oftentimes better to delegate and you focus solely on the day-to-day operation of running the organization. So do you think other coaches can learn from Billy's experience of having tried to stay as the play caller and yet not necessarily doing what he needed to do to win enough games to keep his job?
People can certainly learn from that. Like if there's a problem in your organization and in this case a football team and you're able to get the job done, especially not just necessarily in 1 year, but like over a sustained period of time, right? I mean, Billy Napier for 3 years at Florida, they weren't getting it done on the opposite side of the ball. They were making mistakes. They were doing things that shouldn't happen at Florida. And then at least going into that fourth so critical year, like, okay, if this isn't working, then even though they had that nice jump at the end of the 23 season when DJ Lagway was playing really well, it's like you should probably have the ability to see and not take maybe quite so much pride in the fact that you've done this for so long, but the ability to see like, hey, this isn't working anymore and I do need to change something. And it's easier to do that maybe once you've been fired and you're sort of forced to look that in the face. That's probably what happened here with Billy. But at least now he is looking that in the face, and he is making a change to James Madison. He's not calling plays. They've hired an offensive coordinator there who will be doing that, and so he is giving that up, and he's trying to delegate more. And it's easy to say those things. Now you actually have to go obviously and follow through with it, not just talk the talk about evolving and changing, but actually follow through. And it sounds like he's at least trying to do that.
Visiting with Wilson Alexander On3.com does a great job. You also have a bunch of articles up here, just looking through all your feed, man. You've written a lot. You must be a busy man. Do you have kids? How do you write this much? It's incredible.
No kids yet.
All right, well, there you go. It explains it, especially in the summertime. But it's amazing how much stuff you have. Is your golf game good?
It's gotten better.
There you go.
We need to keep working on putting, Greg. We're not a good enough putter yet.
Putting's overrated. It's at least come on. I mean, nobody wins with the flat stick. It's all driver. Hit it out of bounds. Just hit it a long way and send a message. That's what I say.
Right.
You also did and look, this is more for me. This is selfish. But I don't know how much of our listening audience is going to be dialed into NC State football this year. Probably not going to be a lot. But for those that are paying attention to quarterback play and you like quarterback play, highly recommend you take a peek at what CJ Bailey does at NC State this year. This guy's a dude. And you had a chance to sit down with him, and a lot of people were going after him and trying to tamper with him, but he decided to stay at NC State. So help us understand, I guess, more bigger picture. When you're a top flight quarterback like CJ Bailey is, what does the process of being tampered with look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. That was maybe one of the things that was most interesting in talking to him. For him, it was around the time, basically in December, once the season ended, and they played their bowl game on December 19th. In the 2 weeks between that and the lead up to the bowl game, and then the 2 weeks between that and the transfer portal actually opening on January 2nd, he was getting calls from teams that wanted him to enter the portal. And there's basically discussions on the front end about what his offer would look like, and sort of all that recruitment process happening, even though he wasn't in the portal. And this isn't this is common these days that this happens. And CJ was pretty nonchalant about it, saying how he'd heard a couple of schools out. He talked to a ton, actually literally heard out like a smaller number than that, but ultimately was able to get things done to stay at NC State. He said for him that he always wanted to stay at NC State. There was a trust between him, their offensive coordinator, Kurt Roper, their head coach, Dave Doran, but they also needed to kind of make things work financially and give him an understanding of who was going to be around him. Because NC State, they lost like everybody around him their top receivers, their top running back, 3 of their offensive linemen. They're all gone, either because they graduated or they hit the portal themselves. But NC State was able to make it work financially and make it kind of worth his while financially to stay there. And so then on January 2nd, the day the portal opens, NC State announces that he's staying. Sure enough, he actually follows through on that and does. And that is sort of what the process looked like for him, though. It was interesting listening to how there was a lot done before the transfer portal even opened, actually getting it settled that he was going to stay at NC State when a lot of teams wanted him to come transfer.
But so they just flat out pick up the phone, a team will pick up the phone, or someone will call maybe his representative? Like, is it done through a third party, or is it just straight to the source? Hey, dude, we want you. Go in the portal. We'll make it worth your while. How does that? What?
Yeah, right. Most of that is happening like through an intermediary of some kind. Like mainly nowadays, the agent. But you can still maybe go through a family member or a high school coach or something like that. But this day and age, especially with a guy like CJ, like they have an agent. That's usually who it's happening through. CJ said that he himself talked to a ton of teams. I don't know how common that is or not, but that's at least what he said in his case, was that he was actually hearing from these people himself. Maybe he meant his agent instead, but that was the word that he used.
Very interesting. As we visit with Wilson Alexander, does a great job for On3 Sports. Ton of articles up. Go to On3 Sports, check out Wilson Alexander. You'll find a bunch of cool stuff. Also detailed in there, a lot of stuff on the group of 5, which I find fascinating right now, because I think we're at a weird stage in college football where the G6 has always flown under the radar. That's not new. I think, though, more than we've seen maybe in the past, you're seeing a lot of G6 quarterbacks that ball out that are now taking the next step to the next level. So I find, and my friends that are hardcore transfer portal junkies, they're watching a lot of G6 football knowing that, man, one of these quarterbacks might either be on my team next year or they could beat me next year. So as you put together a list, who are some of the G6 quarterbacks we should be paying attention to coming into this season?
The one that comes to mind off the top is Brad Jackson at Texas State, who is someone I doubt people really know much about. Heck, I didn't watch much Texas State football last year, and he was tearing up the Sun Belt as a first-year starter, redshirt freshman. 71.3% completion percentage, over 3,000 yards. Total yards, he almost had 4,000 total yards because he can also run. He had 21 touchdowns through the air, 17 on the ground, and because he's a young guy too, like this is somebody who he's making a little bit of a jump from the Sun Belt into the Pac-12. The Pac-12, growing back again this year, has added some of the best teams out of the Mountain West. And so he's probably going to face some tougher competition. How is he going to handle that on a week-in, week-out basis? But it also isn't a full-on jump to the Power 4. If he has another big year, this is somebody who we were just talking about tampering. He will be tampered with if he had probably again. If he puts up big numbers like that. And that is the other thing about him is he's got some size. He's like 6 foot, 200 pounds. Whereas some G6 quarterbacks, think about Micah Aledo at Hawaii, Maddox Madsen at Boise State. Like those guys are under 6 feet. And so they're not necessarily have those sort of like desirable measurables, even though the production has mostly been there, especially in the case of Micah at Hawaii. But Micah in particular, because he's got multiple years of eligibility, he's another one that people should be paying attention to. Hawaii's got a schedule that sets up for them, because they play a couple of Power 4 teams, one of them being Arizona State, where if they can continue to improve off of a 9-4 season, they might make a push for that G6 playoff spot. We'll see how it shakes out, but like they have the opportunity to do so, especially with him at quarterback. Those would be and then there's some like guys who maybe could even recycle back up to the Power 4 level after playing in the G6 this year. Michael Van Buren at USF, Jackson Arnold at UNLV, guys who have not really panned out both playing SEC football, but if they go and have really good years as a starter, then maybe they can resurface somewhere else in the Power 4 next year.
Fascinating stuff. Wilson, terrific as always, my friend. Thanks again. And once again, go check out Wilson at WHAlexander_ on Twitter. You can also check out his work on on3.com. Excellent, buddy. Look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, Greg. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, you do the same. Wilson Alexander doing a great job for On3. Ton of different I mean, all over the place. I mean, he's a national writer, so he hits a lot of different topics, but you get some G6, you get some NC State, you get a lot of SEC, you get a lot of different things. It's really fun. See all the different things he's able to cover there for On3, so go check it out at on3.com. All right, when we come back, eras of college football. Fascinating article that I came across the other day. Really want to get to it. I really want to know from our listeners, for you, what was the best era, because there is an article here that makes a really strong case for an era that meant an awful lot to me. I'll explain next on Mac and Q.
Don't leave Jocks back at the house. Download the Jocks 94.5 app and take us anywhere, in the car, at work, or at the game. Live audio, video, and podcasts on your schedule. The Jocks 94.5 app, wherever you may be.
Welcome in. McElroy Cubelic in the morning. Jocks 94.5. Breaking. Huge story in the world of sports. Just dropped, ladies and gentlemen. Scotty Scheffler heading for his first missed cut in 78 events.
Oh, no. Oh my gosh. Oh, no.
Whoa.
Oh,
no. I'm not sure I can do the rest of the show. I need to go turn on Golf Channel. How are we going to proceed? 78 straight events playing on the weekend.
Is the sun out? Because maybe a certain underworld might have frozen over.
I'm telling you. It's his first time that he will finish outside the top 25 in a PGA Tour event since tying for 33rd in the 2024 BMW Championship. I mean, how are we going to proceed, guys?
Wow, he's lost it.
It's
just like that.
It's the week before a major. Who cares? It's the Genesis Scottish Open. I'm not saying it's not a big deal. I'm not saying you don't want to win. You definitely don't want to miss a cut going into a major. Next week's the British. Who cares? You should, the fantasy golf chat that I'm on with my boys from back at home.
Right.
Oh, they're losing their minds right now. How do we proceed? I just don't know.
He just went load management. It's fine. It's okay.
That's it.
That's what players do nowadays. We understand.
You know, it's a tough week for him. People were absolutely crucifying him the other day because he went out and played a couple holes at a place called North Berwick, which I've never been to, but I hear it's phenomenal over there in Scotland. He went out in a T-shirt and workout shorts and just played a couple holes by himself, like just a casual round. And people were like, why is he not in proper golf attire? It's like, well, because clearly North Berwick didn't make him put on proper golf attire. They don't care. He's playing a couple holes with his friends over there in Scotland, and fun golf in Scotland to be played. Like, tough week for Scotty. I don't know how he's going to be able to afford a natural diamond. I'm not sure he can afford it now that he's missed a cut for the first time in 78 straight events.
Just like that, he's broke.
Just
like that.
He goes from well into the 100 millions to zero overnight. But natural diamonds are great, and the gift of a natural diamond began its journey 3 billion years ago. That was actually the last time Scotty missed a cut, around 3 billion years ago. Its original home, far before it met you, is over 100 miles deep within the earth. It's a luxury like no other. A natural diamond is not only a gift to the wearer, but also to the people and the economies in the countries where they are found. Did you know that natural diamonds help support the livelihood of 10 million people worldwide? That saves millions of animals from extinction. That it protects 3 times the amount of the land it uses for diamond recovery. From Canada to Africa to Australia, the impact of your natural diamond is profound. So to discover the latest natural diamond jewelry, visit Bromberg's in Mountain Brook or at the Summit, or you can go online at brombergs.com. All right, came across a really interesting piece the other day. And the title of the piece totally grabbed me. I'll admit, I was grabbed. I was hooked. I'm a big title guy when it comes to long-form journalism. You give me a good title, I'm in. I'll read the whole thing. I'm not your typical millennial Gen Z guy. Like, I don't need the Cliff Notes version. Like, I'll read the whole thing, and it took me a bit to get through it.
Okay.
This one was on The Athletic, and the title was Did college football peak in the 90s? The golden age debate. I mean, who doesn't? I mean, come on. Like I have to read that. Bear, as a child of the 90s, are you not just immediately clicking that and giving your $1 a month to The Athletic so that you can read that article? You have to.
Naturally, yes, because as someone that believes that most everything in society peaked or was near the top in the 1990s, I mean, I have to know why they think college football did that, even though by default I'm going to assume that it did because it said 90s.
Here's my whole debate on the topic. Like, the 90s was terrific. There was actually let's be real, Alabama guy, the 1992 Sugar Bowl. It was one of the first games I watched as an Alabama commit because I felt obligated. If I'm going somewhere for the history and the tradition, I need to be familiar with the history and the tradition. So I went back, watched the 1992 Alabama-Miami Sugar Bowl game. Not in its entirety, because it wasn't available in its entirety, but I have watched as much of that game as I could possibly consume. Incredibly special game. My grandfather, an Auburn graduate, spoke fondly throughout my lifetime about the 1993 Auburn team that was undefeated, that would have done this had they not been on probation, whatnot. So, like, I am utterly familiar with what the 90s were about. My mom, who is a Florida State graduate, my uncle, who is a Florida graduate, the back and forth rivalry that we had internally and the house divided nature of my uncle versus my mom during the Bowden-Spurrier rivalries of the mid-90s was electric. Some of my favorite players include Chris Winkie, Peter Warwick, Warwick Dunn, a handful of other 90s football players. It was amazing. You know what's funny about it? Outside of games that I watched in highlight form, a la the 1992 Sugar Bowl, I don't think there's one game that I can vividly remember from the 90s with that one exception, being that Bama-Miami Sugar Bowl. That's about it for me.
Really?
And this is a guy that, like, of all of them.
Wow.
And to go back and actually check the 90s, you had a bunch of dynasties. You had Nebraska, you had Florida State, and you had Florida. You basically had three teams that won basically all the games. And I'm not saying that that hasn't been true at times in our history as a sport. There's a ton of examples of tremendous runs in college football, including the one by Bama from basically 2009 to 2020, right? Tremendous runs. But if you look at the 2000s, think about how many teams were in the mix for a national championship. A bunch. You look at the 2020s, it's looking like there's going to be a bunch of teams that will be in the mix for national championships. You look at the 80s, you look at the 70s, a little bit more dynasties back then because we voted on championships and it was a different era, and, you know, where you started in the polls really mattered with where you ended in the polls and all sorts of stuff. So it's hard to kind of use those years as an example of greatness and parity and all these other things. But if you look at the games, this is according to ESPN, who ranked the top 40 games in college football history. Top 40 games in college football history, and this dated back to 2019. Only one game from the 90s was in the top 40. One. You know what game that was, John and Damien? I don't even want to ask Damien because I feel like
I'd send him away to do some housekeeping stuff.
Yes,
right.
Go do anything, but weigh in on this conversation.
From that one, wasn't Bama LSU, was it? Bama Miami, was it?
No.
Really?
Not close. Game wasn't competitive.
Oh well, yeah.
That would be Cordell Stewart's Hail Mary for Colorado over Michigan in '94.
Yeah.
One game in the
it.
1990s. Now, Conversely, there were 9 games from the 1980s. 9 of the greatest games in college football history on a piece from 2019. Now, if we were to do this top 40 games over again, would we have a few from the 20s? Of course we would.
Yeah, probably.
A ton, a bunch of them. But if we're going to stop it at 2019, you had 9 games from the 80s, 1 game from the 90s. That's all I need to hear, especially given the chaos and the craziness of the 80s. I think the 80s is probably superior to the 90s. Even if my team, Alabama, wasn't great in the 80s. Somewhat disappointing in the 80s, all things considered. But I don't know how anybody can push back on the 2000s as being, in my opinion, the greatest era of college football history. One, you had the BCS, which made a little more sense than what we had prior to 1998. It made a little more sense. You had to be perfect. You had to win your conference. Even if you did those two things, you weren't guaranteed a spot. So it required dominance. And think about how many teams were in the mix. You had Oklahoma, you had LSU, you had Florida, you had Bama, you had LSU again, you had an SEC run. You also had, if you want to include 10, you had Auburn in there as well. You had the Cincinnatis, you had the Boise States, you had a bunch of you had the TCUs. You had Wisconsin making consistent runs. You had Ohio State that went on and won a national championship in 2002. You had Miami that won a championship in 2001. You still had a really good Nebraska team there in the early 2000s. You had Texas that won a championship and went to another. To me, it isn't really that. Michigan was really good at times throughout that run. USC was incredibly dominant at times throughout that run. To me, there was no better era than the 2000s. But I say that as a 38-year-old man. I want to hear from our listeners, and you can text in the show, you can call in the show, 205-834-9450. I am of belief I was 15 years old in 2003. Okay? So in 2003, that was probably the peak. 2003, 2004, 2005, in that vicinity, that was probably the peak of my college football fandom.
The USC run.
Actually, kind of.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Happened to coincide with it, but yeah, that time, yes.
Yeah, like I loved SC. Like
Yeah.
I thought they were amazing. I thought they was super cool and they were fun to watch and they had great players and I loved SC. I loved Texas. When Bama got hot in 05, I'm a tradition junkie. I've always been a tradition junkie. So like if you're a team with tradition, I'm probably going to be on board with you. But I also liked the era because there were a lot of new bloods that were punching up in weight class too. I mean, what year was it when Boise State pulled off the improbable upset of Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl? Was that like 2004? Thereabouts? 2003?
I thought it was 05,
05?
maybe.
Let's look up. Boise State, Oklahoma, Fiesta Bowl. Fiesta, not with two E's, that's I-E. Okay, wow. All right,
Yeah,
that was
07.
actually January 1st of 07, so 06 season. Wow, I was a freshman. Golly.
Time
old.
flies.
Time flies. Absolutely flies. But, Damian, we'll start with you because we're going to go with an age before beauty approach here. You are how old? 28?
I am 30.
Ugh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, he is out of DiCaprio's
Yeah, we're in
reach.
the same decade, brother.
All right. The best era of college football for you. Give me like a 3 or 4 year span.
Mine probably be late 2000s into the 2010s.
That coincides with our theory.
Right. It's the most nostalgic, like because my understanding of the game was growing along with just watching. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to toot your horn, but like watching you and Mark Ingram and like getting into the Cam Newtons and like the game was starting to spread out. Like we we're done with the big shoulder pad era. We were kind of throwing it around the yard, and the game was evolving into what, it was before targeting. So it was still some bone crunching hits that you could
Men
see.
were men, that's fine.
Yeah,
No
it
one
was
saw
tough.
it.
Yes.
Like the game was still tough, but there was some.
I got targeted a lot.
Yeah, there was some finesse with it. Like we were watching the Tim Tebow's down in Florida, watching just the offensive production. Like you saw West Virginia with Pat White and Steve Sladen, where they made running the triple option look cool because it was spread out. And Texas Tech with the air raid. Like I saw the end of Michael Crabtree, Graham Harrell. Like that was kind of my introduction. Like Missouri with Chase Daniel throwing it all over the yard. Like that was kind of when the game was most influential to me, because it was okay. Yeah, like I ain't gonna be big enough to play a running back. Where would I be able to fit in? And you saw the emergence of the wide receivers. Like they were still big, but there were some smaller guys that were getting some run. Oklahoma State with Dez Bryant and those boys. Like the game was getting. It was more opportunities to see it nationally. Like besides just what I saw in the SEC, it was man. Like the game of football, especially at the college level, like is really starting to bust on out of there. And really and truly, because I had heard for so many years, and I was I'm young, but I didn't see the domination of Alabama in the 90s. Like 1992 was kind of like that team. Like we'll never see another team like that. And then your guys came around and started to see the beginning of the Nick Saban dynasty there at Alabama.
Saber, we'll get your take in a moment. But so far, my take still stands true. The greatest era for, I think, most people, unless your team was especially dominant. So if you're an Alabama fan, I'm good with you saying the 2010s. Or from, 08 to 2021, 2022, whatever. If that's your era, that's fine. But I think if you were asked most people, gun to head, hey, best era was probably about the time you became a teenager to the time you went to college, or maybe even just beyond that. That, to me, I think is probably going to be the answer for most folks, but this article is fascinating. It makes a compelling case in favor of the 90s. I want to hear from you, 205-834-9450. What's the best era of college football in your opinion? We'll get your reaction next on Mac and Q.
Keys? Check. Seatbelt? Check. Jocks 94.5 on your preset? Locked in. Your ride's not ready till Jocks is on. Jocks 94.5, your daily drive done right. Turn it on, lock it in.
McElroy Cubelic in the morning on Jocks 94.5. The greatest era of college football. I think beauty is in the eye of the beholder, that's for sure. Very much dependent on how old you are, when your team was great, all these other things. And we look forward to getting your reaction momentarily, because I think a lot of us probably align with national championships. So I'll tell you the greatest era, though, for GMC dealers going on right now had Bill Smith Buick GMC. They have won GMC's Dealer of the Year, a very coveted award, the national championship of GMC dealerships. They've won that award 9 times, including 6 years in a row. And partly because of the deals that they have on the lot. They just sell more vehicles than anybody else because they give you a better deal than anybody else. Like a GMC Sierra 2500 four-wheel drive Denali Ultimate. $99,030 is the list price. You can take $11,000 off that sticker price. It's that 2500 heavy-duty, unbelievable vehicle with a beautiful trim level with that Denali Ultimate package, taking $11,000 off. Most people aren't discounting that at all. You can get more than 10% off if you just take the short route to Tacoma up I-65, exit 310, Highway 31. You can also go online and have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com. All right, we have a lot of reaction here. Damian and John, what do we got coming in from the folks as far as the best era in college football history?
Somebody texts in and says, I'm 47. I agree with Greg. 2000s was my favorite time for college football.
There you go. I think 2000 was really good. You had a lot of parity. You had some upstarts. I'm not saying like SC's an upstart. I'm saying Bama's an upstart. I'm not saying LSU. LSU in some ways kind of was, if we're being honest. Oklahoma was always good all throughout the 2000s. Texas was good all throughout the 2000s. But you had some upstarts like Boise. You had some upstarts like West Virginia. You had some other programs that kind of came out of nowhere that did some amazing things. Miami was dominant. Florida State was dominant. A lot of really dominant forces. But the upstarts also kind of made it fun. And now you look fast forward a bunch of years, like Boise hasn't gone anywhere. Like, they're still very, very good, a dominant program at their level. Utah, of course, having some great years there in the 2000s as well. And Pitt had a couple great years in the 2000s. Just a really fun time to be a college football fan. All right, go on.
Drake says the same thing. I'm 47, and he says late 90s, early 2000s was his favorite era.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. I mean, he probably was in his 20s at that point, just doing rough math. But that to me felt like the best era. I don't know why. I mean, granted, it's the era that affected me the most because I was a teenager during those years. But it's an easy one to make a case on behalf of. What else we got?
Paul from Lake Martin says, for me, the greatest era of college football was the 80s. He says, I'm an Auburn man, and the 80s was when Auburn finally got over the hump and beat Alabama in 82 and went on to be dominant in the SEC and should have won it all in 1983.
You know, that's interesting because Michael McDaniel tweets in @MacandCube, mid-90s to early 2010s. Growing up and Auburn being good has a lot to do with it. Also prefer the physicality versus the softness of this era. So it's interesting that both of them being Auburn fans, but choosing almost 20-year difference apart.
You know, it's funny because, like, Auburn, I feel like, has had pockets of success. It's like they have real high peaks, right? And it's just kind of valleys. You get a little bit more of like a roller coaster.
Yep.
And I would have to look back at Auburn history, and there have been some years that have been very consistent. I feel like they were the most consistent version of themselves in the 80s. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not, like I said, not like an Auburn historian, but I do feel like they were the most consistent then. Mm-hmm. Is that accurate? Do y'all recall?
No, I think it is. And like you said, they've had pockets, they've had moments. I mean, really and truly, early 2010s, you had Cam for a year, and then within 5 years, you were back in the national championship game. But ever since then, it's been kind of average to below average for a while. You go back to 2004, where the polls, the numbers said they weren't in the national championship game, but then you look at the totality of 2000s, it kind of ended sour. Like, it's just been good, but they haven't been great consistent years for a long period of time.
They went to 9 straight bowl games in the 80s, from 82 to technically 1990. After that season, or really throwing in 90, they went to 8 straight bowl games. They hadn't done that again since they didn't do that again until Malzahn.
Yeah.
I think Tubb had
wild.
7 straight, but still.
And back then, going to a bowl game was a lot tougher than it became in, the 2000s, the 2010s. Like,
9 straight in the 80s.
9 straight. So, I mean, think of going to a bowl game back then was like, that was an accomplishment.
That was a feat.
Mm-hmm.
That was something. There weren't a lot of bowls. Not everybody got invited. It was not one of those. Like, going to a bowl game was hard to do, and they did it 9 years in a row. So I can understand why an Auburn fan would lean in that direction. We have any others?
Yeah, Charles from Vestavia says, I was born in the 2000. Born in 2000. Oh, these youngins awake. So somewhat biased, but I agree with Greg. The chaos of that decade is unmatched. Texas, USC, Miami, Oklahoma, Boise State, Colt Brennan at Hawaii, Mike Leach at Texas Tech, LSU, Urban Meyer at Florida, the rise of Saban at Alabama. Not to mention, you could do a 30 for 30 documentary on just the chaos of 2007.
I think that's why probably the era, I would say, even though that would have been my early 20s, it feels like to me that 2003 to 2007, somewhere, like, if we're going to define it in a few years, I feel like that's when college football peaked for me, because even though like in my high school time, I didn't really get into it until the late 90s, when I knew that I was, because I was in the band, not playing like you guys, but still it felt like work to me. I mean, I was in the band. I had something to do Friday nights just like y'all, not as physical, but still it was something out there. And so in the 90s and the early 2000s, it felt like work to me. So I was able to watch and enjoy, but couldn't really just sit there and actually feel like I could just watch. It all felt like work, but then I was able to step away, and then there was just, like you said, chaos. There was just so much intriguing drama from virtually every season, looking at how in 2003 you had the split national champ, even though the BCS was supposed to prevent that. Then you had wire-to-wire USC, which has since been vacated, and then 2005, whether or not they were the best team ever, and then, oh, by the way, some dude named Vince Young is like, man, I got this.
Well, I also think, too, like, it was good. And by the way, being in the band can be a remarkably physical sport. I don't care what it says. What instrument are you playing? If you're carrying a tuba, that's a beast. If you're carrying a flute, a little more manageable. But I would think holding it up the way they have to hold it up would be challenging over the course of 4 quarters. Like there are physical exertions being placed out there by the marching band, John. So do not downplay the level of physical exertion you put out on Friday nights. That is not fair to you, nor is it to anybody that's ever participated in the band.
I'm pretty sure we exerted more than maybe the special teams. I know everyone dumps on kickers around here, but
that's a lock.
We practiced. I know we practiced.
You definitely did more than kickers.
I know we practiced.
You had fall camp.
Yes.
Believe me, with those guys, we'd go out there and like we'd be going from our dorms to practice early in the morning. The band would be on the field, and then we'd go home. They're still on the field. Like they were grinding. So 100%, you will not find any pushback from me. They do an amazing job, and I think the band is what maybe is arguably the most special part of a college football experience. I think you can make that case.
Oh yeah, they bring
high school
extra,
football as well.
Yeah, they bring extra juice to it. Like it's a you notice when they're not out there, because I went to a 1A school and we didn't have a band. So we didn't have a band.
I mean, they didn't have enough people.
That too.
I mean, I'm kind of joking, but not really.
No, like for real. And not many were musically inclined either. Like it was just
you were either playing or maybe you were coaching or collecting tickets. You were doing something at the game.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we did not have a band.
If you really cared, you would have played a band while on the sideline waiting to go in for the next series.
I've seen High School Musical. You can't do both, brother. That's why it's a Disney Channel movie.
Tell that to what's his face from Two-A-Days. That dude, he was standing out the window like it was a sad commercial. Like, man, I miss being out there with the band. It can be done.
I'm skipping second half adjustments because I got to go play the drums. Like, hey, coach, just tell me what I need to do. I'm back out there.
Heck yeah, I'm all about that.
Somebody texted in and brought up this point. He says Robert texted in and says the best era for college football as a sport has been since 2014 when the college football playoff expanded to 4 teams. But he says personally his favorite decades were 1970s when he was a kid and in 2010s as an adult when Alabama won the national championship. So he's a big Bama guy.
So he likes like 4 decades. Like he's all over the place. I like it.
He just loves ball.
With that.
He just loves ball.
He just loves ball. I can't push. The 14 playoff has delivered in a lot of ways. Like it was great. It was a great era. It really was. But it was kind of the same teams over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
There was occasional disruption, but I didn't think there was a ton of parity, and then partly because of Bama's greatness and all the other stuff too. Like I feel like there was a little more parity in the 2000s. So that made it to me a little bit more compelling. And not that there was a ridiculous amount of parity, but there were probably 15 teams that could win it, whereas in the playoff era, there were probably 5 a year. And now with it going to 12, and with NIL and stuff, there's probably 20. It's spread out even more. So it's fascinating for sure. All right, when we come back, put a bow on the show, tell you our TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend next on Mac and Cube.
Jocks 94.5 is live on YouTube every weekday, plus video shorts and podcasts. Find us at Jocks 94.5 and smash the subscribe and like button so you never miss a moment. Jocks 94.5 on YouTube.
9:53 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate y'all locking in with us this week, especially today. And we have hit a bevy of topics. You can find those podcasted wherever you get your podcasts, jocksfm.com. Appreciate everybody's interaction, but let me tell you about the Alabama heat and humidity. It can be absolutely brutal, but don't let it affect your home and family. Keep them comfortable with an affordable Train cooling system recognized as America's most trusted brand 12 consecutive years. You can rely on a Train. To find a comfort specialist near you, go to train.com. We do it each and every Friday. If we only had one game, and I know the cupboard is bare, but we still got some exciting action going on. It's our TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend.
I'm going to start off because I want to go ahead and get my football out the way because I don't know if y'all are going to take it, but I at least want to make sure I get one of them in. You've got a couple of decent matches out there. I know the people in Miami are mad because they're getting Norway and England when they were supposed to have Spain and Mexico, and I know they ain't happy. But today, 2 o'clock, Spain taking on Belgium. Belgium took out the United States. So I was like, all right, let's see what they can do. And Spain one of the favorites in the World Cup. I can only watch one game this weekend. That would be at Spain, Belgium, FIFA World Cup football, 2:00 today on Fox. That's my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend. By the way, you can get into TD's for their summer sale going on now. Markdowns for the whole home throughout the entire store. They have 100,000 square feet of beautiful furniture with guaranteed lowest prices, plus 12 months no interest. Head to TD's Fine Furniture in Sumiton. Damien, what you got?
Oh, you know where I'm going. I'm going to AF1, where my top-seeded Nashville Cats are on the road to take on the Albany Firebirds in a matchup we won a couple weeks ago, 78-69. So expecting some big-time explosive offenses, and we got to maintain the number one spot. That's the Nashville Cats taking on the Albany Firebirds, 6 p.m. I'm assuming on YouTube, but I'm going to find it. Yeah, I'm going to find it. Yeah. But that's my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend.
I can't wait for a full breakdown from Damien on Monday on what the Nashville Cats did this weekend. And I especially can't wait for him to break down how he finds it and what illegal streaming service he's going to have to use to go and watch that game live. I'm actually going to go in a slightly different direction. I'm going to go to London, England.
What?
Centre Court, Great Britain, where Yannick Sinner and Novak Djokovic will actually be taking, what do they call it, the pitch? What do we call the tennis court?
Taking center court.
Yeah, taking center court.
Yeah. That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, taking center court. Yannick Sinner, the defending champion at Wimbledon, taking on the 24-time major champion Novak Djokovic, who at 39 years old finds himself in this spot yet again. It could be the end of an era. He's still in great shape. He's still in good form, but we never know when it could be the very end. So I'll go Sinner against Djokovic. That is starting in about 15 minutes on ESPN. So, a lot of good TD's Fine Furniture stuff to look forward to this weekend. I hope everyone has a terrific weekend. Thanks to Wilson Alexander for joining us. Thanks to John. Thanks to Damien. Terrific job. And thanks to your interaction and the amount that you guys gave to us on the show today. So for all of us here at Mac and Cube, I'm Greg signing off. 3-Minute Front's next.
This is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
Scrolling with Haley.
I am Haley Carania. I scroll with the homies here in the live chat because there's a lot to scroll through on X, on Instagram, on TikTok.
Cutting through the clutter, one hot take at a time.
Love seeing you all in the chat before the show. I tried to jump in just a few minutes before to say hello. I love the chat interaction. Thank you for helping. But I do it to get all of the videos and all of the content that you won't find anywhere else.
Scrolling with Haley.
Just search that up and I will be there.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Jim Rome takes on sports.
I will always have a complicated relationship with this game, but people evolve. So do sports. Do not make me regret this. Do not make me devolve back to that guy that so many clones wish that I still was. And do not embarrass the entire country. Now, I can go back. I can get there fast. Lose tonight, and you got a real problem. Do not blow it.
The Jim Rome Show podcast.
You've been warned.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform. Jim Rome takes on sports.
Part of what makes this show is the show within the show. The biggest topic on the show always seems to be the show itself. This is a way to give you clones a way to interact with one another. Yes, we will be going through the chat. Yes, it'll be a part of the program. The only thing that could ruin the show are the old school clones spitting up the same bull crap that they always have. The jungle is out taking names and ready to dominate. Let's get it.
The Jim Rome Show podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.